So now, introduce yourself. You know, because I don't want to misrepresent you. So introduce yourself.
My name is Starling Sanders. I'm the founder and editor of Industry Rules magazines, as well as industryrules.com. So there are two entities, but they're kind of intertwined in one with basically the same name. But we'll get more about that in moving forward. But I am the co-founder as well as the owner and the editor of Industry Rules.
Now, Industry Rules, exactly what kind of magazine? Because it is a magazine,
right?
And it's online and it's print, correct?
Right. So Industry Rules magazine is a magazine that focuses on different industries every month. So 1 month we could be talking about.
You got to bring up your mic just a little bit. Yeah.
Is that better?
Good. Talk.
Yeah, Industry Rules is
Yeah.
all right, great. Yeah, so Industry Rules magazine is a magazine that focuses on different industries every month. So 1 month we could be talking about cars, the next month we could be talking about energy, then the next month we could be talking about sports, whether it's NFL, Major League Baseball, football, etc.
Yeah.
And we kind of choose our industries on what's trending in the month. So in particular, so for October is usually breast cancer awareness, culinary industries. So we kind of focus on either breast cancer awareness or the culinary industry.
Okay.
So
Nice. Now you have some really interesting people on the cover. Like I seen Roxanne Shante.
Right.
I've seen J. Alexander Martin from FUBU.
Right.
I've seen who else? I've seen a lot. You had a lot of good covers.
Right. Yeah. So we had a slew of I would say entertaining individuals who are kind of noteworthy within their industry. So we've had Yandy Smith when we focus on reality TV, Chef Simpson when we focus on the culinary industry, Roxanne Shante when we focus on Black history.
You had the guy from Blink Fitness on there also.
Yeah,
right?
And that was an interesting story. Todd Magazine, which he comes from the lineage of Equinox. So Equinox, if you look at their story, they wanted to come out and kind of compete with the Planet Fitness from a financial perspective. So they instructed Todd to kind of run the whole Blink, fitness concept. So and he's been running it. I think at the time when we interviewed him, they had like 30 stores. They're over 70 some stores now.
Yeah.
So an amazing run. So we kind of focus on people, or give people the opportunity with our platform to give them a chance to speak before they become the next level. Like when we first started off in 2012 as actually a blog, we were the first people to do a story on Uber when they were just a regular app in the App Store. So, and now Uber is literally part of our daily dialogue.
Nice.
Let me get an Uber, So it's like, we kind of focus on industries and people right before they take off.
Okay.
Exactly.
Oh, so you're gonna focus on us next?
Absolutely. Listen, the funny thing is, we're gonna be doing something on radio. We're trying to do it in the fourth quarter. So we're talking to several people in the radio industry. So definitely make sure you guys get a plug.
Yeah. We can use that. We can always use some extra plugs, man.
Absolutely.
So now, how did this come about? Like, what made you say, you know what, I'm gonna make this magazine? You and your co-founder, I'm gonna make this magazine on this. Like, some people do sports, some people hip hop and this, but you guys are not focusing on one particular thing. You guys are focused on a whole array of things.
Right.
What made you guys say, you know what, we're gonna focus on everything and not just one thing?
Well, we started off, I would say 2012 when we first launched the blog, which had a different name. I was writing a script for BET for a reality TV show, and I was also had a managing company, so I managed the talent that did the reality TV, and we also had a blog based on her personality.
Okay.
So we did the pitch. BET was like, "Well, we love your presentation. We don't like the concept," so we kind of put that to the side and we just focused on the blog. And in 2015, we kind of relaunched it into a new name, which is Industry Rules Magazine. And my thing was, how can we create a platform where people, I won't say the word less than franchise, but people who wouldn't have a platform and opportunity to speak to get their stories told. Like, you wouldn't know about a Paxton Baker, that he, comes from the whole BET lineage, and then he owns part of the Washington Nationals. Chef Simpson, who comes from Jamaica, now is opening up a school in Jamaica for less privileged individuals. You wouldn't know about, obviously Roxanne Shante, because she's been, the stretch of her career is over 30 some odd years. But for Horace Davis, who comes from Jamaica as well, but he's one of the top, engineers at Con Edison. The top magazine store with Blink Fitness. So on and so on and so forth. So my goal was to how can we create a platform that'll go across the board, not just specific to a race, but just specifically to a person that's running the industry.
Okay.
Like next month, we got someone. It's going to be, he's amazing. He's amazing in the wellness community, and it's just how do my goal or my vision was how do we create a concept where people who doesn't have a voice get an opportunity to speak.
Now, how do you pick the people that you pick for these different industries? Like, how do you come up with them and say, you know what, I'm going to focus on this guy or this young lady or this woman?
Well, we have a the good thing with industry rules, because we stretch across so many brands and so many platforms. We have a slew of contacts. I mean, it's we have a lot of people. So every month, someone not every month, but like months in advance, people come up to me and say, when I say me to the team, etc. Hey, can you do a story on this person? Do a story on that person, and then if it goes in line with our matrix, okay, this is the month we're going to be focusing on travel. This is the month we're going to be focusing on entrepreneurs. This is the month. So if it lines up with what we're focusing on, then we kind of
then you use that person.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Ladies,
So, what is the message that you're trying to get out to everyone who reads this magazine?
That it is you, which meaning that. Paxi, who comes from LA, Compton, to be specific, whether it's In Vogue, whether if you just...
Yeah, you had In Vogue. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, it's like, and now they're like, if, and I just use this as a template, but whether you're, Ed Reinbergs, who's an entertainment lawyer from Toronto, whether you're Yandy Smith, who's a music manager, whether you're, Walt Frazier, who's an NBA legend, or whether you Kim Hampton, the first round draft pick for the New York. It depends on what where you're at in your career. What are you trying to do in your career, and the story that you have. Like, we're all about positivity. We never do negative stories. I can't fathom. I give an example. And this is years back when what's the guy's name? The dancer, the Michael Jackson guy, Chris Brown.
Yeah.
So when Chris Brown was fighting.
Which one?
Over
Rihanna. Okay.
What's the guy from
Drake?
Drake. Yeah. So when they were having their little tussle,
beige quarrels.
Yeah. So when they were having their tussle at the greenhouse, we actually did a story on the greenhouse, which is kind of ironic. But I remember getting a text late at night, and it's like, Starling. People call me Star for short. Yo, Star, I got a story for you. I got Chris Brown right now. They're doing a melee right now. You can put it, upload on your social media. You guys will go viral, etc. I just text them back. I'm not going to name the other radio station, but let such and such live. My vision for Industry Rules, and it goes into industryrules.com, is a 4-piece concept where industryrules.com is the housing unit for Industry Rules magazine, as well as our talk show, as well as our fitness program. And we're launching a store this fall. But what I want to try to create is an opportunity for people to get their stories told. I can't say that. I'm probably going to say this like 100 times during this interview.
It's fine.
That's good.
You have to understand that I did a speech when we did our magazine launch, cover release in Times Square at BB King's for culinary chef Simpson. And I said this, and it was, I always speak from the heart, speak off the cuff. And people started, laughing and clapping. I'm like, I'm dead serious. Like, I don't care if you work with Taco Bell or Duracell. As long as you're thriving in your industry, we'll find you, and your story will get told. And then that's kind of like my mantra. That's kind of like my thinking, concept. So it's, whether you're Maria Peterson, who lives in Italy, right? Who's a pilot in Italy.
Yeah, I saw that.
And
that was
that was one of our favorite photo shoots, because we had to coordinate that while in Italy. Like, I had to translating this guy, the photographer. He only spoke Italian, so it was like trying to get all of those things and getting her schedule, because she's flying back and forth from Milan to Sicily, etc. So just getting that story out, and now she's taken off. And we've been at the genesis of so many brands. Again, whether it's Uber, whether it's Maria Peterson, I think on social media now is almost up to over 500,000.
Yeah.
And when we first got her, she was like 75,000. So I know our platform works. Whether you're Vanessa Bell Calloway, who's coming to America, whether you're Mike Pitney, who's going to be the next Spike Lee, whether you're James Anderson, former Dallas Cowboys, who's now not resurrecting his career, but now is transitioning his career to golf. And he's anticipated to be the next Tiger Woods.
Or the Saturday morning wake up show that's going to revolutionize the internet radio.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
I
put that
like
out
your
there.
platform and I like everything that you're doing because it's hard enough to have your own business or get started in whatever field you're going to be in. And when you hit that peak, you need everyone to know. And now everyone is going into social media,
Right.
but to have a magazine to find out more information about that is great. So, like, who's your audience and that you would like to read this magazine and get to know what these people are doing?
Well, we're in the first phase of, it's like a 7-part phase. It's a 4-part phase to industryrules.com, but as far as the magazine, it's a 7-part phase. The first phase was, what I wanted to do is create a credible brand. It took us 2 years to do that, so we've kind of done that. When I mean credible brand, like when we get literature and documents from PhDs, you guys are doing good, or certain media companies that are on the upper echelon. Like I was at and I'll answer your question, I'm going to bring it back home. I was at a party with Vanity Fair.
Okay.
And one of the guys said, "We heard about you." I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, in what capacity? I mean, and he was like, keep up the good work. So the audience that we like to get is, and that's part of phase 3, we're at phase 1, but the audience that we like to get is transition the Industry Rules magazine into what I call a pamphlet or a unit for which is timeless, meaning it's that kid that's coming out of college, or that kid that's in his last year of, he's about to graduate, he or she. So what we like to do is create a handbook, meaning if we did, let's say for instance, not a real focus, but a focus on the music industry, we'll have someone like Diddy on the cover, right? Or someone like Sean Carter or Jay-Z on the cover. And that particular person in that magazine will have everyone that worked for the music industry. So when a person who goes to Harvard or goes to Howard, when they pick up the magazine, they're like, okay, if I want to get into that particular industry, Industry Rules has created a handbook for that particular industry that I can read Sean Combs' story, I can read the A&R story, I can read the guy that picks up the people as part of the street team and get a better understanding on how the industry works.
I got you.
Wow,
So that's
good.
good. So that's going. That'll be our third phase. The first phase is creating credibility, and the second phase is to strengthen our audience, and the third phase will create that handbook. Where if I did specifically the aviation industry, we'll get a pilot on the cover, but everyone in that from JetBlue, the Virgin Airlines will be in that particular book. So if I'm coming out of school and I want to be in that particular industry, I'll have a handbook type of concept. Right.
Nice.
So,
Now, let me ask you this, because the magazine business and like newspapers and all stuff, it's kind of a dying.
yeah, it's a dinosaur, right?
Yeah, it's like a dinosaur. So how are you going to sustain what you're doing if you know that your industry actually is kind of, I don't want to say failing, but it's kind of fading because it's going more towards the social media and stuff like that.
Right. So people ask me, when I first, and I come from the music lineage, like, why would you want to be a publisher? And I'm like, well, it's a 4-piece concept. And then I'll explain it to you guys, not in depth, but give you a scope of it. So we launched industryrules.com, which is a multimedia platform that houses entities. The first entity is Industry Rules Magazine, which is our visual, physical magazine. We have a talk show called Coffee Time. We have a fitness program called Prime Time. So the concept is, and we'll be going on to our second phase, is with the media platform is to create, we're not going too deep involved because it's still kind of working on investors and stuff, but is create a platform, even though, like you said, the publication arena is pretty much, I won't say the word dying, but they have to kind of reshift their focus on how to monetize.
Like the music industry.
Exactly, with the 360, et cetera. But the way we look at it is obviously the following on social media, and how do we kind of compete, or how do we kind of, exist, is to, with the magazine, et cetera, you kind of, it's
no, go ahead.
Yeah, so with the magazine, in its entirety, you the way we kind of move forward is, the good thing about it is I'm kind of like losing.
Yeah, train of thought. Go ahead.
So with the magazine, with the online piece, we're able to kind of compete with the bigger brands like the GQ, with the Vogue, et cetera, by us being able to, okay, you have GQ.com, you have IndustryRoots.com. So we can kind of almost compete. Obviously, we're not from a financial powerhouses, Condé Nast, who owns, GQ, et cetera. Right. But we can still get our piece of the pie. It goes back to a coffee concept, and I'll bring it home in a second, which Starbucks. You have Starbucks, you have Dunkin' Donuts, and you have, let's say, for instance, Organo Gold. So most people have heard about Organo Gold. I remember being at a presentation, just sitting in, because my brother, he works for them as a distributor, and I'll bring it back home to Industry Rules. And I remember listening to one of the guys who's like the head leadership in sales. He goes, we don't want to compete against Starbucks. We don't want to compete against Dunkin' Donuts. We don't want to compete against Folgers, etc. We just want our 3% of the market.
Okay,
if we get 3% of the market, which equals $800 million,
we're fine.
We're fine.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
So what Industry Rules is, we're not trying to compete. Well, we're trying to compete from a visual standpoint with the bigger brands, but at the same time, we look at it as, we'll continue to build our audience, continue to build our niche, at the same time, give an opportunity for people to tell their stories.
No, I got you.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
What or who have been your most memorable guest, or someone you really liked working with?
I would say all of them, because each month lends ourselves to an opportunity. You get an understanding of who they are. Like, I'll give you the Clyde Frazier, which is one of my favorites. And the story was, I have obviously the team. We kind of linked up with him, and we did the shoot at his restaurant in the city.
Restaurant.
It's awesome. And we're sitting there, we're doing the shoot, and got the photographer. He's excited because Clyde Frazier is, Mr. New York. And, at the end, his publicist there, meaning Clyde's. So Clyde comes over and says, Starling, do you mind having lunch with me?
Okay, why not?
All right. I mean, yeah.
Nick legend. Yeah,
of course.
Basketball
Listen,
legend.
So, and I remember his publicist saying he doesn't do that. Like, he's in and out. And I remember him, we all were eating, and I'm just looking at him like I'm still in the maze because it's Clyde Frazier.
Yeah.
And I'm checking out what he's eating. I'm like, okay, we kind of eat the same thing, right? And he leans over, he goes, Starling, I love what you guys are doing. And I get it from the first time it was given to me. I'm excited that you chose me to be in your magazine.
Nice.
And I'm like,
I'm excited I got you.
Exactly.
Your name is in the Raptors, right? So it's like, listen, that was, from that situation to Maria Masak, who's from, I forgot the country she's from. I think it's from Croatia. Maria, I apologize. But her story is incredible. Like, she's a fitness model. She's been in the industry for 10, 50 some odd years. And we found her, one of my assistants found her, et cetera. And we interviewed her. And then I met her in person when we did our anniversary in one of my guys' studio in LES. And she came over to me. I was with my wife. She goes, and she started crying. She goes, Starling, I've been in the game for like 10, 12 some odd years. And no one has ever gave me this type of platform to tell my story.
Yeah.
Wow.
Since my cover on the magazine, I can now go back to my country. I'm like, oh, you in exile? I mean, what's going on? And it's just, from Marlo Hampton to, all of the stories. I love them all. From, Radhika, who used to work for Beyonce, right, as a fashion designer, to be able to launch her home brand, and she's from Sri Lanka. And now she's, world revered in Sri Lanka. So it's like, or one of our sponsors, Von Locke, who they're based in Germany. We interviewed the founder and the owner, who's like the Ralph Lauren of Germany. Hearing his story on how to create a brand and give and outsource and give jobs into other countries like Malaysia, where he has his warehouses and production shops, and be able to help those economies overseas. So it's like hearing all of these people, listening to them talk, and hearing their specific stories or particular stories, and for us to get the opportunity to share them, it's always gratifying.
Yeah, trust me, I can relate, because when you get a chance to speak to people that you might not feel like, or you might not have the opportunity any other time to speak to and hear their story, and then you hear it, and it's usually an incredible story.
Right.
It's kind of it's inspiring, and
Right.
it's a little uplifting, and it just feels good. Like,
Right.
I got this done. Like, I made this happen.
Right.
Yeah, like even this one with this interview right now with you, for us, it's a big interview because we're getting a magazine that most people know about but don't know. There's a lot of people that don't know about it,
Right.
and we're getting to hear your story and how you came about it. So it's the
Right.
same kind of thing that you do. We're getting
Right. So I mean, I tell my wife this morning. I was like, I'm just a, I'm from the A. I lived all over. I'm a former military guy. To me, I'm excited. Like it's for me, the emails I get, the text messages I get. I mean, we get so many emails every day to kind of, cipher through them and filter them out. But so many people that we can, and so many opportunities that we can just tell people's story is just phenomenal. And my thing is, you like this month's issue, which is Melissa LeBron, who's the first African American woman who owns her own car in NASCAR.
we had her do an interview with us, but it was via phone because she got sick, so
Right.
she just called in. But we had her,
Right.
and her come and tell her story too, which is a great story.
Yeah. So it's like you said before, we want to create motivational stories. So that kid, whether he's in Watts or in Southside Chicago, or where I'm from, East St. Louis, or Brownsville, etc. You're like, you know what? I can identify with those folks. I could identify with James Anderson being picked in the 3rd round from the Carolina Panthers. I can identify with London Arrington. I can identify with Steve Francis. Going from,
He's one of my NBA favorites.
yeah, I mean, that was a crazy interview because when we was doing the interview, he wasn't even in the country. He was in a tropical storm.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and he was like, the senior writer who was doing the piece on it, he was like, nah, I'm going to do it because I made a commitment to industry rules, but, there's trees falling around me everywhere, so I'm going to finish this interview. And that was, it's just, from, Dean Charamet, from Michigan, and being able to come into the culinary industry and have his own show on Fox.
Yeah, that's
So
good.
it's every story that we have has a sprinkle of motivation. So when you kind of look at these folks, you yourself can identify with them and say, listen, if they did it, I can do it.
I can do it too.
Exactly.
Definitely dig that.